My name is Trevor. I'm presenting a paper today which I've entitled The Gift of the SCCA, for reasons which will become obvious as we work our way through. I've been in and around motorsport for a long time. In 1968 I was a lad of 19 at a brand new track in the then small town of Mount Maunganui, and I had a job to do, setting up the dummy grid and getting the cars out to the start line in good order. This on the occasion of New Zealand's first contact with Formula A, when a group of 4 SCCA race teams travelled to our track in late 1968 to showcase their cars. This is my first-hand account of that visit, with a bit of help from some photographs that had languished, thought lost, in a box in a closet for 60 years before re-emerging and giving me the impetus to prepare this paper. In 1967, the SCCA had amended the technical criteria for their single-seat racing formula cars, Formula A. It was now possible to use either a race engine with a maximum capacity of 3 litres or a 5 litre stock block one. On the face of it, a small change, but one that changed New Zealand motorsport and then went on to change the world, one step at a time. I do hope you'll enjoy this account. New Zealand and Australia historically had invited Northern Hemisphere teams to come racing on the sunny south during the winter, along with the opportunity to sell their obsolescent cars to their southern cousins. This racing was on an ad hoc Formula Libre basis, a situation addressed by the Tasman Formula in 1964 that adopted the recently departed late 50s 2.5 litre Formula 1, a decision that kept the older local cars in play, but not for long. A scant 3 years on, and the 2.5s of the local fleet were being challenged by a new strain of 1600cc Formula 2 cars, along with even the best of our national Formula 1500cc cars challenging the bigger old ones. Change was in the air. Mount Maunganui was then, and still is, a holiday resort and a mecca for surfers. This provided the local car club, being both the track builder and the race organiser, with a fortuitous captive audience for just this time of the year, and a newly built track to accommodate them. Come they did, on the 28th of December 1968, 38,000 of them, to crowd out the track and the new breed of race car. There is an adage that says that spectator sports need appeal and attendance to survive, and the new track did that in spades. 4 SCCA Formula A teams came to New Zealand in that December. A car club delegation had been present at the end of season SCCA race meeting at Laguna Seca in October 1968, and 4 teams had put their hands up to make the trip down under: Grable, Phillips, McMillan and Ramsey. The who and the how of this delegation is not stated. Seems to be a bit of a mystery. But these old eyes note that the end of season SCCA Formula A race on 13 October was a scant 1 day after the washed out 12 October Can-Am race. And there were plenty of Kiwis at Laguna Seca that weekend. So the club's delegation may have been enhanced, Denny Holm in particular having a close relationship with the club. However, it panned out getting these cars to New Zealand was a very tight schedule indeed, and essentially the visit itself was as much a demonstration as a race, and what a demonstration it was. A spectacle not to be missed, ask any of us that were there. The next year was even better. The stock block V8s had taken over, with nigh on 2/3 of the field being Formula A cars with a sprinkling of local builds and drivers from all over. By this time, Formula A was becoming worldwide and popping up everywhere. Thank you, SCCA. But all good things have got to come to an end, and that end, around 76 or so in New Zealand, was when the cycle of obsolescence and challenge and replacement clicked over one more time. By happy coincidence, the challenger this time was another SCCA offshoot. This time the Formula B morphed into an international arrangement called Formula Atlantic, and down under Formula Pacific. The siblings had pushed the old boys out of the nest. With the final indignity, in New Zealand that is, the 5,000 in the Pacifics could race together, but with a 6% handicap added into the Formula A's elapsed time at the end of a race, an undeserved indignity that the driver that won each and every race on the track that year was not in the end declared as the winner of the national championship. Formula A was marvellous. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much for being here for stage 2 of my presentation, the SCCA's gift to the world. In the first stage of this we talked about what happened. In the second stage we'll look at the how and the why of it. How did it all come together? The town of Mount Maunganui is a dormitory village for the big city across the bay. It doubled as a holiday resort town in summer and a mecca for surfers in most of the year. The local car club set out to capture a part of that market, firstly trying out an around-the-house race meeting in 1964, but finding that the local roads were not up to the job, and if a racetrack was to be built it would have to be a new one on a standalone basis. The track itself, a place was found and purpose-built track opened on December 1967. Bit over 1.5 miles of it, a long back straight, one leg with a sweeping return and a tight S-bend. On the face of it a power track, but in practice not necessarily so. On the twisty bits, the small cars made up most of what they lost on the straights. Racing was always close and tight, and the spectators loved it. By late '68, the track had progressed from hosting local events through to national championship races and was ready to go international. And that first big summer crowd was in for a real treat. The club aimed high. An approach was made to the SCCA and a deal made. 4 Formula A teams took up the challenge and made the journey south. By late December, all was ready for the first test of the big track. 38,000 spectators turned up to see it. We got our money's worth on that day. The visit was timely. The foundation cars for the existing Tasman series were essentially pre-61 2.5 litre ex-Formula 1 cars, and these had been standard fare for the past few years but were no longer competitive against the big engined ex-1.5 litre Formula 1 cars that were now turning up. These second generation Tasman cars were both effective and expensive. It was time for a change, but what to? Formula A provided the answer. Exciting and affordable cars you could make at home. And for the first year, the stock block Formula A cars and the 2.5 litre racing cars shared the same grids. The first hybrid Tasman season fell to a big ex-Formula 2 Ferrari, but that was the last time that this happened. From then on it was Formula A all the way. 5 things had made that possible. The falling competitiveness of the existing domestic fleet, the unwillingness of the Tasman Series organisers to release signed-up drivers for non-championship events, the willingness of the SCCA teams to demonstrate their cars, and the very existence of the new track itself. A generous prize pool did not hurt. Reflecting the multi-usage nature of the venue, the car paddock doubled as a speedway for motorcycle and midget racing. Concerns were expressed that the Formula A cars would be so much quicker than the domestic cars that they would serve as a racing danger, a storm in a teapot, as the domestic fleet was quite capable of running with the new boys on the block. Grable, as the best of the A's, took a second or so off the lap record in practice, but the field behind was well mixed between domestics and the new boys. The whole of grid time split between the domestic Tasman Formula cars and the Formula A ones was in the order of 2 seconds. And Grable went on to take the race honours, but second place went to a 1600cc Formula 2 car. And the best years of Kiwi motorsport were about to begin. The photographs on the round will give a feeling for the event. The following year, Grable and Phillips returned for another run at Bay Park. Grable with his wedge-bodied McLaren and Phillips to drive a local car. Add in Campbell's Force Greenie and Goth's Surtees, Simpson's Eagles, and a lot of Aussies warming up for the Tasman Series races. Formula A was here to stay. Thanks a lot. And where did they go? 3 of the 4 68 cars went home, but the ISART stayed for a little while. It had been damaged in a late race incident. Repairs were made locally, and the car reappeared in late September 1969 in time for a couple of shakedown races before rejoining its buddies at the next big Bay Park meeting, again in late December. This time, Formula A cars from the United States, Australia, Europe and New Zealand, including the local builds, made up more than half of the entry list. Formula A was here to stay for a while, a good while. Us old fellows now stand around or wait around for the next nostalgia series of racing. We still say, well, so do the kids. Thank you very much.